Hey, good morning, traders. It's Peter on the microphone. And I hear
Good
some.
morning, Peter.
Hey, and we got Norm with us too. Good morning, Norm.
Good morning.
How you doing today?
I'm all right. I'm cold. It's 23 degrees outside. I'm not a big fan. I'm ready for spring. I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, sorry. Just making sure YouTube is working. Looks like we're live on YouTube, guys. Just give me a good thumbs up or an okay on the chat in YouTube to make sure you can hear fine and see everything. We had record snowfall this morning, so first big snowfall of the year, and of course, even here in Ottawa in Canada, where we are used to the snow, people just go crazy. So I went out to the gym this morning. It wasn't a problem, but I drove my wife's Subaru. Gotta admit, I love that car. You can do anything to it; it just drives in a straight line, like it just goes. So, but others were struggling mightily. So. Hopefully you guys are having a good morning and aren't dealing with any weather issues. And let's jump right into things. So yesterday was a little bit of a weird day. So we had the bond markets were closed. And some of the international markets, such as the Canadian market, were closed, which means that the U.S. markets were down in volume. And, frankly, I wasn't seeing a lot of follow through on most of the moves. So, which is not unexpected, right? When you get these sort of pseudo holiday days, it causes the markets not to act, I'll just say, normally. That being said, every day is a new day, and you never know what to expect. So what were we looking at yesterday? Well, on our pre-market gappers list, we were looking at a number of things. One of them, which was a carryover from last week, was WBA, Walgreens, and as we know, Walgreens can sometimes move well, sometimes not. Unfortunately, I would say yesterday was a sometimes not day. If you look up here, I'm looking at yesterday. It was just choppy right at the open. It was ugly. It was hard to trade. I know Andrew was trying to trade it valiantly, and it just was not cooperating. And then you can see the rest of the day. It didn't do much. It really just sort of bounced around just above VWAP here. So not a fantastic day for anybody that traded WBA, I would imagine. That being said, why don't I not have it here? But Baba was one that we were looking at least I was off the open. And we had a great sort of what we call a rising devil pattern. It didn't spike up too much, but you could see, let me just move backwards here in my chart. You can see moving into the open, it was coming down. I was looking for a pullback myself. And I had the opportunity. I got in right around the $184 mark. I was able to ride it down about $2 and take partials on the way down. There was actually even better trade on the way back up, but I did not take advantage of that. Unfortunately, I missed this whole increase for the rest of the day, but it was a good trading stock for most of the day. Towards the end of the day, I can only speak for myself, but I was trading Tesla. Tesla was one that was doing its little choppy stuff. I was looking for a drop into the close, which it finally did give me, but it was sort of just moving around as it always does. Norm, was there anything yesterday that you were loving, that you were looking at? I don't remember what you traded.
No, I'd say yesterday I finished faster trading than I think I ever have. I was done 29 seconds into the market.
Damn.
It was actually kind of on that pre-market activity on WBA. It looked very weak. I took a short. It dropped $1.50. I was out most of it. I was looking for other trades and realized after kind of that morning frenzy of when everybody is put in their orders that are being filled right at the open. They could have put them in the night before or earlier in the morning. They get filled right at the open. It gets kind of crazy. There was so little volume. I was like, this isn't working. This isn't worth it. Almost everything I saw had relative volume, of 0.6 or somewhere in there. There were a couple of outliers. It just didn't make sense. So I sat around and looked. I didn't see anything, and I called it a day a little bit early.
That's probably smart. I can see that. So yeah, those Rising Devil plays are great, but timing is everything. They're tougher than you'd like to think to take. But if you did get in at a good point, you could take advantage of this first candle. But I see what you're saying. Like, just look at the volume of WBA. A couple of big candles, but this is the opening 2 minutes, and 2 minutes in after that, look at this. I mean, the volume dropped off very
Nothing.
quickly.
Yep.
So, all right. Well, let's get to today. We've got a couple of interesting things going on. I was checking some of the news, so it's getting interesting. So let's start at the top of the list with brew. So this is, I think this is like Craft Brewers of America or something like that. It's up significantly, 122%, but I know there's very specific news. I don't know, Norm, if you had a chance to look into it, or I can jump right into the news myself.
I have not looked at brew. My scanner's set to 50 cents ATR, so this isn't on mine.
There you go. That would be why. Okay, well, Brew is it's a rumored buyout. It's not confirmed, but there's a buyout offer from Anheuser-Busch for $16.50 a share, all cash, and you can see the price has basically moved up to roughly that level. Usually what happens is things move up to just below the offered cash price level, and we see that's essentially what's happened on Brew here. So I actually am not planning to keep it on my list because I don't expect a lot of movement from it today. So moving on then to AMRN. We've got a nice pop on AMRN, and I know there's some news on that as well. Norm, have you got that news?
Yes. Sorry. No, I apologize. I've something we should mention anyway is yesterday we've been working for quite some time on a new feature for the chat room. And we have the Benzinga Squawk feature now enabled. So we'll talk about it more as we get going here, but it's real-time alerts, audio alerts that they call out through the Benzinga piece of the room. If you go in there, if you click the Benzinga logo and then that, everybody in the room has access to it. I had it turned on, and the second you asked me that question, they started talking about something. So I did not realize it was going to do that right in my ear. So I have pulled it. I have silenced that for the moment. It's a really amazing feature. We got multiple emails yesterday of people that had got into trades that they wouldn't have seen taking place, forming, being able to take otherwise. So, like I said, it's included as part of the room. We actually had them build out the technology to enable it to do that. So that's why it's taken a few months, but it's finally live.
There you go. Yeah, and I was using it yesterday. Some good announcements from it, and it doesn't go all day, so it's not like it's talking all day in your ear. So that's good. I actually like that.
Yeah, it's only when there's nobody yapping. It's just when there are important breaking news and they're coming real quick. Give a very succinct version of it, the ticker, and then you can hop over and look at it. Or they announce it right when economic data comes out and such. Anyway, so for AMRN. I guess there was some new analysis that one of their drugs was cost effective and having better outcomes than originally anticipated. So that's giving them a pop this morning.
Yeah.
Positive FDA news, to be clear.
Exactly. Something called Vascepa. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Anyway, it seems to be a diabetes drug that they had some positive news on. So AMRN, I've often found it to be a tough trading stock, though. So while it's popped up this 18% pre-market, you can notice it's sort of gone flat. So at the open, I don't know what to expect, right? It is it's obviously not a low float. It's actually quite a significant float here, and it's a $6 billion market cap company. So this could actually drop when we get to the open. It doesn't always do what I expect, but I'll keep it on the watch list, and we'll see what happens with it. Moving on here, so SEC Limited. All right, what's going on with it? 400.
This is a weird little company. I gotta say, this is a weird little company. This thing, they had earnings this morning. I have not been able to dig into the results, but as you can tell, they were pretty positive, trading up almost 15%. So Keep an eye on this one. I believe it used to be a low float. It's based out of Singapore. So I'm not sure if something I'll touch, but go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I think of it as a low float. So is it not? No, it's 120 million shares. And it's listed as a USA company, which is weird, but okay. I don't know. Yeah, it is like I think of it as a low float. I'm looking, guys. Despite the fact there's 400,000 shares volume, I'm not really liking the pre-market. Even looking at my 1 minute chart, there's only a few minutes with actual shares traded. There's a lot of minutes where nothing's going on, so it's not consistent. I'll leave it here for now to see if it gets better, but it's not something I have high hopes on. So moving on. We've got a couple of buyouts here we can take a look at. KEM. KEM. So that's up 12%, almost 800,000 shares. Actually, well, I'm surprised it hasn't flatlined here, but I know that this, at least the news that I saw, was this was a buyout at $27.20 cash. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a cash buyout. It's been fluctuating a little bit. I mean, if you look on a 5 minute chart, it's pretty close to the flat line. It's just popped around a little bit. I'm not sure. It's a little bit more than we usually see, but I'm seeing the same thing about a cash buyout.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, again, I'll leave it here for the moment, but I don't think it's something I'm going to trade. And I notice things are dropping off our list, which tells me they weren't very strong then, because my list was a little bit bigger a few minutes ago. All right, moving on. DXC. So my alma mater. I spent 15 years working for the precursor to DXC. This is a little bit of a weird one, Norm, if you have the news this morning on it.
Why don't you run with that since you know about this company?
Yeah, so DXC is a merger of the old CSC Computer Sciences Corp and the Commercial Services Division of HP Enterprise. And they've been struggling ever since they threw those together. Those were both underperforming. Basically, they put two underperforming divisions of large, each company was about $15 billion separately, and then they spun out parts of it to create about a $20 billion company. But they're in a market of IT outsourcing and services, which frankly has been on the decline for about a decade. Now, basically they announced their earnings and they missed their estimates and had several downgrades. A lot of them they kept equal weight, but they downgraded the price on DXC quite significantly on many of the ones I was looking at. That being said, you notice that it's up 8% this morning. So I don't honestly know what to make of that, which is why I called it a little bit of a weird one. But there you go. The only news I saw was negative, but it is up this morning. So I will be keeping this on my list just to see what happens. And what's the last one? Last but certainly not least here, let me throw in TME. TME. So this is 10 Cent, isn't it? Yeah, 10 Cent Music.
Yes, 10 Cent Music.
And what's going on with 10 Cent, Norm? Do you know?
So, yeah, they had earnings last night. That was released after the close. They beat their estimates. I don't know what else is in there. I've traded 10 Cent before. I wasn't a huge fan. I haven't spent a whole lot of time researching this one, but they had their revenues beat, their earnings were in line, so I'm not quite sure why it's trading like it is, but a little more digging and I'll see if I can find anything else. If you know, chime in.
Yeah, the only other piece of news I saw was that they had won a lawsuit that was put against them. But, again, that's positive news. And this is an odd one. It's sort of the opposite of DXC. It's like they got them reversed, where it's down 4%, despite what, as best I could tell, was positive news. So again, it always makes me nervous when things are trending counter to the news. However, I will keep it on my list to keep an eye on, and I'm not really excited about anything so far we have on the Gappers list. The only other thing that I had on my list that I was keeping an eye on, that I'll just put in here for reference, PCG seems to be moving this morning. It's dropped below the 2% mark, which is why it's fallen off our list. The PCG is the bankrupt company out of California, energy utility, that has had all the lawsuits because they set the wildfires. inadvertently, of course, but still, they're being saddled with that. And they've put in, so there's been a sort of a group that's been trying to take over their assets and suggested they were going to make a $13.5 billion payout to the victims of the wildfires. And PCG management has come back with an equivalent offer. So I assume that's what was creating a little bit of a bump in the stock. But PCG's, it can be a tough trade in any day because it can trend and you can get some good moves out of it, but you just never know in which direction it's going to trend. The last one that I had... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Peter.
No,
go ahead.
Last one I had was SLDB. I'll just mention Solid Bioscience. It isn't on our gappers list because the price, I have my gappers list set to, it has to be at least a $5 stock. So this closed yesterday at $11, but you can see now it's only $3. So it's down 70%, so it dropped below the threshold, which is why it's not here. However, there's almost 1 million shares traded, and on SLDB, they had a trial that was put on hold by the FDA. So that, as you can see, has brought them to all-time lows. This 325 is all-time lows. So that's one that I definitely want to be having on my list to watch this morning. All right, Norm, you had something else?
Yes, I was just going to mention that we were reminded to be sure to go through the NASDAQ active and gainers.
That's a good point. I did miss that yesterday. I'm trying to fill in for Carlos, who's got this down to a science. I do not. So, all right,
This is true.
Let's take a look here. So, Amarin, SLDB. Hey, look at that. We already talked about that. FCell. Let's take a quick peek. Oops, I better link it to what I'm doing
penny
here.
Penny stock, AVEO is penny stock. AMD is on there, but that's not uncommon. AMD's up 0.4% on 355,000 shares. Not really a ton of volume for AMD. One of those we'll keep on the side in case.
OGI I see in here, but again, it's another low price stock. I don't particularly like what it's doing. Brew Amarin, SNRC, not really very active. Loan, no. ACST, don't like the look of that either. CAS and RKD. All right, nothing there. Let's just check on the losers here. SLDB we already talked about. FLNT, not a lot of volume. OGI, I may just put OGI in here to see what happens. I haven't looked at it at all. I have no idea what the news is on that, but we'll keep it here. ORMP, don't like the look of that really. And last one I'll look at here is T2 Systems. Now that I have traded in the past, but it just looks ugly this morning. All right, so those are the ones.
So nothing there of interest really. I'll tell you, Peter, I've got a few here that I'm going to have my eye on today.
Okay.
Tyson, TSN had earnings. It's not gapping down huge. It's on decent volume, 101,000 shares. It actually had dropped $4 about an hour ago, and it's come back up close to previous day close. I will have my eye on that today.
I see that.
Disney's launching their streaming service. I'm definitely going to have my eye on Disney. It's up about 1% on 184,000 shares. That's pretty substantial. And then I anticipate DR Horton will be in play today. It's gapping up 2.6 on 71,000 shares, so it will probably hit our scanners before the open, but I've got my eye on it. They reported earnings last night as well.
What's the stock symbol on that bad boy?
DHI.
DHI. I've seen that one before. Yeah, that is not moving well pre-market, but I see if it's got news, we'll put it on there. All right, good. All right, guys, so we've got a bunch of stuff that we're going to need to go through and take a look at levels. Before we do that, let's get to our announcements for the day. Let me just bring these up here. Sorry, this doesn't display.
Just the second page.
Yep. We'll just, there we go.
There we go. All right, so Trade Ideas Fall Test Drive is going on. This is always an awesome deal when they do this. You can get 10 days for Trade Ideas for $8.99. You can do it even if you've done it in the past. Get in there, try it out, see if you like it. It's a great, great software tool. We obviously have our scanners up for the chat room for the entire day, but some people like to create their own for their own trading style. So along those lines, we also have the new scanner contest. There is a forum post. Abiel's posted the links to it. But The gist is, if you create your own scanners, we want to award the person that comes up with the best scanner. You have through the month of November to post in that forum about your scanner, info on your scanner. At the end of the month, the community will vote, and we will give you an award, an iPad, and hopefully be able to put your scanners up in the room, and you'll have the pride in that as well. So also, let's see here, DAS is about to crank up their #1 best trader competition. It starts on the 15th. You can use the promo code BBT15, save $15 off of that. It's really, it's a lot of fun. And with that promo code BBT15, it tags you as a BBT member or a part of the community that watches us on YouTube as well. So their live leaderboard's really cool to watch, and you can see, the people in BBT and how they're doing. It's anonymous. It ain't gonna have your name on it. So if you have a terrible day, you're not gonna be embarrassed. You're just, a number. But the last competition that ran through the month of October, BBT, the best person trading stocks actually was BBT. So it really is cool to see that. Upcoming meetups coming up real soon here this weekend. Clearwater Beach, Florida, November 16th. Info is in the forum. Special guest, Ed Martin will be there. I know Andrew's talked about it in the room. So go. That's going to be a pretty big meetup. I've heard the guest list is pretty long of people going. So enjoy that. And I also, when I go to meetups, talk to people about, connecting with traders in your area, so that you can have meetups that aren't just like this, but I don't know, breakfast of 4 or 5 of you on a Saturday morning, and work with each other and establish relationships. This can be a really lonely business sometimes, so being a part of a chat room is awesome. And to add on to that, a community of local traders that you get to know, become friends with, is really just an awesome deal. So we've also got quarterly lifetime option is a new option. We've been asked multiple times to break up payment for the lifetime membership. You can do that now as a quarterly installment 4 times, and then you'll be done. We also have a pre-market discount. If you're watching the pre-market show and would like to take part in that, 35% off a lifetime membership, you can use the code pre-market LT35. And that will get you 35% off the one-time lifetime membership, one-time payment lifetime membership. Coming up next week, November 19th, man, time is flying. November 19th, 12 p.m. Eastern, in the chat, we're going to have Robert Green with Green Trader Tax. Especially anybody that's new to trading, there's a lot of info. We get asked tons of questions this time of year through end of next year. You do not want to put off learning about this stuff until it's time to do your taxes come next March. You really want to know about it before December, really. So he'll be talking about this is for U.S. residents, people subject to U.S. taxes. He will be talking about trader tax status, 475 mark-to-market election, wash sale rule, how that impacts us, what you can do around that, all those great topics. Take a look. His website is greentradertax.com. Also, if you're watching us on YouTube and would like to try out the room, you can do so for a week. Use the promo code premarket24. Does not auto renew, does not turn into another kind of membership or anything like that. And if you subscribe and hit the notification bell, you'll be notified whenever we go live with new content or live streams, such as the YouTube, the pre-market show and our other streams. So thank you guys.
Great. Thanks, Norm. Appreciate that. All right. We are at 9 o'clock, so let's get going through some levels here. I used the daily chart to set the levels, so I'll be focused on that. Starting with Brew. Now, we mentioned Brew is a buyout offer, and frankly, look at this. I mean, it is dead flat. I'm not going to set levels for it. I don't think it's worth the time. So I'm getting rid of that. In fact, I'm just going to take a peek here at KEM, because that was the other buyout. Also flat, so I'm taking that right off my list. So let's get to the ones that we could likely trade. So AMRN, I can see I've got some levels already set. Let me take those out. My charts automatically mark the high and low of pre-market, as well as the high and low of the previous 2 days. So those are the red dotted lines you see in my chart, and they're already there. So I'm just going to mark some levels here at the most recent high in case this thing decides to take off. However, I'm not sure that it will. I'm also going to mark this candle right here, which had a low of 2092. Let me just set that exactly at 2092, just because it had a gap in here, and if it goes into a gap fill, this may be an area that it takes a pause. So I noticed the current price is sitting right at $20, and look, I mean, it's not a coincidence. I've got at least two, sort of 3 days that have stopped there, so I'm just going to put a level there just to keep that in mind. And let's see, these are all marked. I'm going to throw one way down here. I have no expectation it's going to get down to $14, but I'll put one down there. So now I got a couple of levels for AMRN. That'll keep me through the open. SEC Limited. Again, I have a couple of levels I'd set previously. I'll just clear those up, and let's see what we've got now. I'm going to put one up here. I like sort of this little spike. I'm going to put one at the most recent high right there as well, which was a high of $38 even, so that's good. On the downside, I can see there's a little bit of consolidation right here. You can see at this level where it's bounced off this level a few times. So if it does drop, that may provide some resistance on the way down. And you know what? That's about it. That's all I'm going to do for SE. DXC. DXC. All right. Geez, it's moved in a really narrow range, hasn't it, for the last like 4 months. So I'm going to put a level up here. Again, I said the news was negative on it, but it is up so far this morning. So who knows what's going to happen at the open, but I'm going to throw some levels, one down there, just because I see these sort of have pushed through it this day here on the 3rd of October, bounced off of it, as did the 18th of October. I'm going to put another level right there, so I've got something on the downside below the last couple of days, and we'll see what happens. You bet. Sorry, guys. I'm just sort of throwing these. I don't normally say them out loud to myself. So DXC, I put a level at 27, roughly. It's 2707. Let me change that to 27 even. There we go. And then I've got another level here that I'm putting at 26. I'll put it at 2645. Just as an aside, I don't know if you guys know that. One of the things I've noticed, let me do it move on to TME here. When you set levels, they're not always exact. Sometimes you may want to adjust your levels, and let me tell you when I do the next one how that looks. So TME is down today, so let me look to a level to the downside. I like right here, so I throw my level in, and it's at 1261 here. When I look at these candles, you notice it tells me the low is at 1260 on that candle, and the low is at 1256 on this one. So if I wanted to move my level, I actually right-click on it, go to Config, and then it brings up, this is the price of the level. So all I have to do is modify it, and I can actually move the level sort of manually wherever I want. So now I'm putting it exactly at 1260. So and I'm going to throw one more at the bottom of this candle, which is 1240. So let me just reconfigure that and put it right at 1240. There we go. All right, so I've got two levels to the downside on TME. PCG. I don't even know if it's worth marking levels on PCG, frankly, because it doesn't seem to obey them at all. Let me clear what I've got, but I will anyways. What is this candle here? Low of $4.96. Can you believe that this stock has gone from a low here of, what was the low? $3.55 up to a few days ago at $8.20. Jeez. So anyways, look at this. Pretty flat the last couple of days, but I'm going to put one level up at the top here at just $8.20. And then one at this consolidation range right here at $7.44, and that'll be it. All right, SLDB. I can see I've got a couple of previous levels that I sort of like. I've got one at $4.32, which is right at the bottom of this candle of this consolidation range we had back June through August. And I notice I've got one just above. So what's the highs here? $6.85, $6.87. Way over here we've got $6.82 and $6.85. So I'm going to put I'm going to move this level to be right at $6.85. And I already have a level here. The high of the pre-market, look at this. You notice we say sometimes these levels are magic. So look, the high of pre-market just happens to come right to the low of where these candles all consolidated on these 3 days here in late August. So that tells me that it's respecting that level, and I'm going to just put another level right there as well, just to remind myself of that. So that's all I'm going to do for SLDB. OGI. This is the one I just threw on. I didn't really take a good look at it. 389,000 shares. I have no idea what the news is. I don't know, Norm, did you ever have a chance to look up some news on OGI? Like, why is it moving today?
Let me dig into it.
Probably not. That's all right. Let me throw a level in while we're doing that. I noticed that right now the price is sitting here at the bottom of this candle, $2.71. I'm going to put that.
It's like it appears they've last night they updated their Q4 their guidance.
Oh, so they increased guidance. Okay.
No, they reduced it.
Oh, reduced guidance. Oh, yeah, of course, right. They're down 19%. So, all right, reduced guidance. Just make a note so I remember that. Fantastic. All right, well then I've got the one to the downside, and is that an all-time low? Let's see here. Not quite. It isn't, but geez, this is getting into penny stock territory. I think I might keep it on my list, but it's getting dangerously cheap here in OGI, so I don't know if it's going to be a great trade, but we'll see what happens. Tyson was one that Norm mentioned, so there was news out on Tyson Foods. I can see I've got some previous levels. Let me just get rid of those. Boy, it's had quite a range today. As Norm mentioned, it was down $4. It's now back up sort of almost into this range. It's been consolidating for the last couple of weeks. However, the low of pre-market, you notice it stopped not only where there was this daily moving average, which I'll put a level right here at 77.47. And then to the upside, maybe here at 84.80 roughly. I'll throw one in there. I don't know. No, I'm sorry. I forgot if you'd mentioned it. What was the news? Was it positive or negative? What's your expectation on Tyson?
On Tyson, they actually their earnings were a little soft, but what then kind of drove it back up a little bit was they were very optimistic about next year, 2020.
Okay, so a little bit of a mixed set of news there.
Well,
all right.
a little bit of both.
Yeah. Okay. In the room, Bo was saying missed because of a warehouse fire. Was that related to Tyson, Bo? I assume so, but yeah, TSN. Okay. Apparently they had some sort of warehouse fire, which may not have been good. All right. Disney, as we mentioned, Disney is launching their streaming service today. I see that they're sort of right within the range that they've been playing the last 2 days. I've got some levels that I'd previously marked here at the high at about 140, and then at the low at 136. I don't know what we should expect. I've got some levels up higher if this thing really takes off at 145. I mean, on the first day of streaming, this is just my experience, but generally, good news doesn't happen fast. Bad news does. Yeah. So somebody mentioned that. So if the streaming service goes well, you're not going to hear much of anything, right? Because then they've got to build subscribers, and it'll be growth over time. However, if they have issues, like somebody mentioned, they were having some connection issues on their first day of streaming. That's stuff that will hit the stock, and you could see have an impact right away. So to that end, I'm going to keep these levels I've got going down here. 136. You notice I have one at just about 134 here. In fact, what is this high of this candle? It's 134.14. So I'm going to move this level up to 134.14. And then I will keep the levels I have here at 132.69 and 131, just in case they get some really bad news intraday and this thing starts to plummet. I've got something I can use to see where it might pause. So we'll see what happens at Disney. It could be an absolutely nothing day, or it could be a big downside day. That's sort of my guess as to the two options as to what might happen here. All right. Last but not least, DHI, another one you'd mentioned, Norm. It is up 3%, low volume so far, but look at where this pre-market range is. It's right at the high of these candles. So again, when we talk about our magic levels, I mean, it's not coincidence these things sort of pre-market move to these levels. So the high of this candle was 54.41, and this one here was 54.42. So I think having something right at, I've got it at 54.41. That's fine. I'll leave it right there. And going back farther, is there anything up higher? Is this all-time highs? It's looking like it. Okay, that makes it even more interesting. So it looks like DHI is at all-time highs right now. I'm going back here. I've gone back 20 years, and it looks like it is. So that is actually very interesting. So with DHI sitting right close to all-time highs and a big gap up from yesterday, we could see some movement in it. So I really only have this one level at the high of these candles, which I said is essentially the all-time high. We'll see what happens at the open. This thing could move on us. If it drops from that level, I've got a previous day level already marked in here, and then I will just mark this one, which is roughly at $53. So that gets us good on DHI. All right. So we've got all our levels set for the day. I've got a bigger list than I would normally have. Usually I like to leave it for a couple of minutes to see what's going to make my short list. I think for me, I'm probably going to... I did like DHI just because it's at all-time high, so I'll probably be keeping an eye on DHI and Disney, DIS, AMRN. DXC is a little bit of a favorite for me just because of my history with the company, but I said it is confusing being that the news was negative, but the stock is up, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. And the last one I will probably keep on my list is TME. So that's going to be my short list for the morning, and we'll see what happens.
Peter, the DXC has had a number of price targets lowered this morning by analysts.
Yeah, I saw that. Like I said, they have a bunch of downgrades or at least price reductions, right? But that's why I don't understand why the stock is up 7+% right now.
Yeah, I don't know. It's strange. Well, that's at 31.63. It closed at 29.40 last night. Except for one, all the reductions still have their price target above. Well, not all of them, but several of them have the price target reduced, yet still quite a ways above the current price.
Yeah.
Maybe that's it.
I don't know. Could be. I mean, I know DXC does a very careful job these days of managing the analysts. So, anyways, I said I'll keep it on there. Just it's almost it's like a sympathetic, I'm a softy favorite for me because of my history, but I don't know if it'll be a good trader. In news today, guys, I just want to mention before Andrew should be joining us soon, but before I hand it over and we move into the chat room and off of YouTube, there are a couple of things happening today. I believe that there is a Fed announcement happening today at 1 o'clock, although I'm not sure the details of that, whether that's a talk or just a paper release. But Urbano...
Yeah, there's nothing significant on that. I mean, it's just speech.
Okay. All right. So it's just a presentation which may not have an effect. However... I went to upcoming events on the White House. If you haven't been there, go to whitehouse.gov live and you can see what's happening. It's important because Trump is addressing the Economic Club of New York at noon today. So, we just have to be aware that any time that you have a presidential speech in any era, you can get reaction from the market. These days, the markets are very skittish with any news. Obviously, President Trump will not be tweeting while he's speaking. However, there will be people in the room that could be tweeting things which may or may not, be fact. And what happens sometimes is the markets just go a little silly. So just be aware of that, right? Go ahead.
This is specifically, he's anticipated to be talking about the China trade deal as well.
Right.
So it could have quite the impact.
Right. So be aware, guys. If you're in a trade or considering a trade around noon today, these things often start late, but as of noon, probably for the next hour and a half or so, you have to be very, very cautious.
Yeah, it starts at noon. It'll be with the president. He's not having to travel in. He's at Trump Tower, just a few blocks away from the Hilton Midtown where he'll be speaking. So I anticipate it starting right on time, and it'll be at 1 hour, and then he's leaving back to go to another event. So
Okay.
keep an eye on that. It should be interesting.
There you go. So, guys, I think those are the key elements for today. We can all get ready for the day. The market's open in just about 13 minutes here. So, with that, thank you so much, everybody on YouTube, for joining us for the pre-market show as we get ready for today. And hopefully you will have the opportunity to join us in the chat room. It's a great place for live trading. And like Norm said earlier, we have our discount code. If you just want to give it a try, see if it's for you, see if our live trading and our community is something that fits with you, then we'd love to have you there. So with that, thank you, everybody on YouTube, and we'll talk to you later.
Take care, guys. Trade safe. See you tomorrow morning.